The story happened in the summer of 1989, when I was only 8 years old. One morning, both my parents went to work. Only my sister and I were left at home. There was a fish pond near our house. I heard that there were a lot of fish in it, so we decided to go there to play. We walked along the path for a while and soon reached the fish pond. We squatted by the fish pond and watched the fish swimming in the water carefully. They jumped out of the water as if they were saying hello to us. We decided to catch some fish. I found 2 long, thin sticks and tied my clothes to the top of them. I noticed a small red fish in the fish pond. I was fascinated by its beauty and decided to try to catch it. I stepped on a rock and tried to get close to the fish. Suddenly, I lost my balance and I fell into the fish pond. I felt very scared. My sister realized the danger I was in and screamed for help. She tried to find help, but there was no one else around. I felt my whole body become cold, as if I had fallen into a refrigerator. Suddenly, my body jerked violently and shuddered uncontrollably. Each jerk was like an electric current passing through my body, causing me to twist my body in pain. This violent jerking made me feel frightened. My chest felt a heavy pressure, as if an invisible hand was pressing on my lungs. I felt like my chest was sinking in, unable to expand and breathe. This suffocating sensation made me more and more desperate. My vision began to blur, and darkness gradually spread. My heart was stopping, becoming weaker and weaker with each beat. I tried to stay conscious, but my body became weaker and weaker, and my mind gradually blurred. Finally, I lost all sense of the outside world and sank into darkness. Time suddenly stopped. I don't know how long it took, but I suddenly had a feeling of complete relief. All the pain and discomfort disappeared. My heart stopped beating, and there was no longer the rhythm of my pulse. I saw my body suspended in the water, floating gently. There was no expression on my face, neither surprise nor fear. I had been freed from the bondage of my physical body and entered a supernatural space. In this state, I felt immense freedom. There was no pain and no bondage. I felt at one with the universe and connected to everything. There are no limitations of time and space. It is hard to describe this state in words. I feel surrounded by love and peace. I am clearly aware that before becoming human, I was a being made of pure light. I felt that my essence was pure and innocent, in perfect harmony with my present state. Suddenly, I heard a voice, a warm voice. It told me that everything would be all right. This voice gave me infinite comfort, and I felt that I was no longer alone and afraid. Suddenly a bright light shone down. As the light gradually spread, I saw an angel dressed in a white robe appear in front of me. The angel emitted a divine glow. The angel stretched out her arm and gently held me. When her hand touched me, I felt an incomparably pure power. The angel lifted me from the water. I felt her energy pass through my body. She held me, and together we ascended into the sky. As we floated in midair, I could see the fish pond below, which was getting farther and farther away from us. The angel seemed to be silently telling me that everything would be okay, that I would be sheltered and protected. In her company, I felt very relaxed. My body felt light and free, and I was able to breathe freely. I felt my soul was cleansed and restored to a state of wholeness and health. After we had flown some distance, a bright light appeared ahead of us. As we approached, the light gradually surrounded me and a warmth engulfed me. The light was brighter than the sun, but it didn't hurt my eyes. After the angel said goodbye to me, she disappeared into a glow. I was floating there alone. Suddenly, I saw the figure of a man approaching me. When he came close enough, I felt a strong wave of love, full of warmth and care. This love was so strong that words cannot accurately describe it. I was glad I wasn't really dead. But where was I now? He told me that he was here to help me with my problems. Even though I was in an unknown place, I felt incredibly at ease in the company of this man. First, he showed me my past life, and the picture before me was like a movie. I remember thinking, how bad can this be? I was just a kid. I saw a bad thing I had done. I was playing at home when I suddenly saw a little bird resting on the windowsill. I decided to throw a toy ball at it to see how it would react. My action caused the bird to be frightened. It flapped its wings to escape, but unfortunately hit the glass with a crashing sound. I realized that my decision had caused harm to other creatures. I saw another thing. I was playing near my home. I noticed an old grandmother pushing her shopping cart. She looked like she was having a very hard time. I ran up to the grandmother and asked her if she needed help. She smiled and nodded her head. I pushed the shopping cart as hard as I could and made it through the steep uphill section. She took my hand and expressed her gratitude to me. I felt so proud and happy because I knew I had brought help to others. This experience taught me that even as a child, I can give love and support to others through acts of kindness. No matter what our age, we all have the ability to make a positive difference. With the end of this scene, the entire movie stopped playing. I felt inner peace and contentment because I got the answers to all my questions. I began to reflect on what I had just seen. I became acutely aware of my past actions and the results they had brought about. I saw how my actions had affected the emotions and lives of others. Of all the good things that have been done, I could feel the gratitude and joy of those who benefited. However, I also saw my own wrongdoings, such as damaging a neighbor's window and hurting a bird, which caused me deep guilt and remorse. This experience taught me valuable lessons from my past life. It was at this time that I thought about my family. I shuddered to think how my mother would have reacted if she had learned that I had passed away. I shuddered to imagine her heartbroken expression and endless sorrow. I longed to be with my mother again, to feel her embrace, to hear her voice again. I miss the things that used to bring me joy. I don't want this incident to cause psychological shadows and damage to my sister. She is so innocent and still needs my company and protection. I hope she can continue to grow up happily. I told the angel my inner thoughts, and he said he would respect my choice. However, the angel's words confused me. He told me not to tell anyone about this experience, and that time would give the answer. This statement left me wondering why I could not share this experience. I did not get an answer from him. Perhaps the angel wanted me to keep this experience deep inside. Because this experience was personal to me and needed to be understood and comprehended by me. At the same time, I was able to observe what was happening on Earth. I saw that my mother was very anxious, and she seemed to sense that something was wrong. She ran back home as fast as she could. My body had been fished out of the water by a neighbor. My lips were purple and my mother immediately began to give me artificial respiration. Her eyes were filled with fear and desperation, but she didn't give up. The whole scene was filled with a sense of urgency. My soul seemed to be able to feel my mother's love. I wished I could return to her side and feel her warmth as soon as possible. The neighbors around me watched the scene nervously, each one silently praying for a miracle. My soul felt a powerful suction. An invisible force guided me back to my body. It was like a very thin thread that carried my soul through the border of space-time. The process of going back was not easy. I could feel the connection between my soul and body being restored. And a new connection was being established between me and the real world. My senses gradually became clearer. My vision began to become clear. I could feel my body again. An energy gradually spread from the top of my head to my whole body. Finally, after a tense and long wait, I began to feel a faint heartbeat. My body began to make subtle movements. My mother's eyes were filled with joy. At that very moment, I opened my eyes and saw my mother's joyful expression. I had successfully returned to her side. There were cheers and applause from the neighbors, celebrating this miraculous moment. I returned from the brink of death, having experienced the preciousness of life and the greatness of a mother's love. I knew that I had been given a second chance, and I would cherish that chance and live it gratefully. At that time, I was still relatively young and I could not understand what death meant. I knew I had left my body and entered another world. This experience made me realize that our body is only a temporary container, just like a crab will keep replacing its shell as it grows. When we no longer need it, we will leave it and our soul will move on. This made me start to reflect on the meaning and value of life. Our body is only a part of our existence, it does not represent the whole of us. After death, our soul will move on and enter another world to continue living. Death is not the end, but a transformation. It is our transition from one form of existence to another. Over the years, I wished I could share my experiences with my family. However, their reactions made me realize that keeping silent might be a better option. It seemed like a crazy story to them, and I would have had a hard time believing it myself if I hadn't experienced it myself. When I was 41 years old, I told a pastor about my experience. We sat together and I told him what had happened. He listened to my experience, and his face was filled with concentration. After I finished speaking, the pastor told me how blessed I was and that it was a gift from God. He saw my experience as a divine experience and a reflection of God's care for me. It was deeply comforting to hear him say that. It was clear to me that this experience was the most authentic experience I had ever experienced and that it transcended everything in my real life. I hope that by sharing my experience, more people will understand that God's love is unconditional.